As a kid, I was always fascinated by old Kung Fu movies and anime. The idea that one could develop almost superhuman-like skills through hard training sparked the idea that maybe I too could one day become a true Kung Fu master. However, I knew that the journey to find a true and strong master was hard. Hey friends, my name is Keitaro and I've been teaching traditional Kung Fu for the past 15 years of my life. And I want to share with you what exactly Kung Fu is and some of the things I got wrong when I started this journey. Kung Fu is a big world and one could get easily confused or misled by its many styles, masters and mystifications from movies. Kung Fu translates to acquired skills over time. The two Chinese characters used for Kung Fu, Gong Fu, is Gong, translates to work, and Fu, which translates to time. Kung Fu wasn't exclusively martial arts, but also was used for other art forms, like calligraphy or painting, for example. But today we associate Kung Fu mostly with martial arts, Chinese martial arts that is. But even in the world of martial arts, it wouldn't be fair to use Kung Fu as a standalone style. Today there are over 500 different Kung Fu styles, which can differ from each other quite significantly. It's like saying that all sports played by a ball would be the same. That wouldn't paint an accurate picture of soccer, football, baseball, basketball, etc. So let's break down Kung Fu a little further. We can split Kung Fu in traditional and modern styles. Even though Kung Fu styles were always adaptive to changes, we can draw a distinct line where Kung Fu underwent a radical change. When Mao Zedong announced the Republic of China, the country underwent a cultural revolution in which they purged the country of all traditional elements. As a result, the government created modern Wushu, a consolidation of aspects from different Kung Fu styles, stripped away of all traditional and martial elements. A new sport, so to speak, which was funded and pushed by the government and putting many traditional masters out of a job. So what are the differences between traditional Kung Fu and modern Wushu? The main difference of modern Wushu to traditional Kung Fu is aesthetics. Modern Wushu is a very standardized sport, much like gymnastics. It has many acrobatic elements and its main purpose is to look good. Later, another discipline was added called Sanda, the Chinese version of kickboxing. Traditional Kung Fu, on the other hand, is grounded in utility and traditions, which I know can contradict each other sometimes, but more on this later. Even though there are many different styles, many different traditional Kung Fu styles, they all share the same organizational structures and many of the styles are a closed system. The organizational structure of a traditional Kung Fu school looks like a family tree. There is the master, the father figure, which is called Sifu in Cantonese or Shifu in Mandarin. There's the grandmaster, there are siblings, your brothers and sisters, older and younger. This family-like system is very hierarchical and there are many etiquettes to show your respect to your master and older siblings, which can be very unfamiliar for Western people. Another thing that is very common among traditional Kung Fu styles is that many of the styles are a closed system. So what does this mean? Today we are very used to a modular lifestyle. We go to the gym to get strong, we take a yoga class to get more flexible, and we meditate to get more mindful. we pick and choose what we want, just like on a buffet. Traditional Kung Fu is in this regard very different. Normally a style has exercises to get you strong, exercises to learn how to fight, and exercises to be more mindful and to relax. And in addition, it has overarching principles like yin and yang, bagua, 5 elements, and so on, which has applications not only for fighting but also life in general. Some examples of traditional styles would be Hungar, Choi Li Fat, Wing Chun, Bagua, Tai Chi, Tian Chen Pai, Ba Chi Chuan, Tang Lang, and many more. Now that we have established basic knowledge of what Kung Fu is, let's look at some common questions that I get and some advice for when you would like to start doing Kung Fu. Is Kung Fu good for self-defense or fighting? My answer is, it depends. Let's take modern Wushu as an example. Nowadays there are 2 disciplines in modern Wushu. We have the forms, a set performance of movement, like gymnastic, and we have Sanda, the fighting part. Elite athletes nowadays dedicate their whole time on either one of these disciplines. And if you think about it, it makes absolute sense. In an elite environment, you would want to spend all your energy and practice time to one discipline to gain an advantage over your competition. And how about traditional styles, where fighting, among other things, are an integral part of the practice? It comes down to the same question on how much time you spend on sparring, actual sparring, and how much time you spend building up foundational stuff like stances, forms, and stuff like that. Even though all parts play somehow an integral part of the whole system, it adds up to more complexity. For example, juggling with 2 balls is much easier than with 5 balls. Same thing applies to fighting. The more techniques you have, the harder it is to manage these techniques in actual fighting. That said, traditional Kung Fu most probably would lose against an experienced boxer. But it doesn't mean that they could not be good fighters. It just takes more time. Boxing has fewer techniques, and one could spend a lot more time with actual fighting, sparring. While Kung Fu, on the other hand, has this vast collection of techniques. You have forms, you have techniques with bare hands, with weapons, you have breathing exercises, you have meditative exercises, you have conditioning for bones and arms and muscles. You have just so many things to work on. Imagine having the same time as a boxer. In terms of fighting experience, a seasoned fighter will outperform you. Still, you may get a broader movement practice with traditional Kung Fu. So, depending on your goals and personal preferences, you would choose one over the other. Which Kung Fu style is the best? Asking which style is the best is the wrong question. My advice is always to look for a good teacher first, no matter what style. Practicing the best style while hating your teacher because he's an idiot doesn't make your journey enjoyable. So choose your teacher first. I can make a whole video on what makes a great teacher, but to make this short, here are some indicators that you can use. First, can a teacher replicate his skills to other students? Is he passionate about his art? Is he a good human? And what does your gut say? Don't take traditions too seriously. Seriously. The good thing about traditional Kung Fu is that it has a system to teach you the art, which has stood the test of time. And it also has a collective memory and practices of many generations. But traditions can also be very rigid. So in the past, Kung Fu has always been adaptive, otherwise it wouldn't have survived until today. So why are today's masters so protective of traditions and on how things are supposed to be? Always ask yourself whether a specific tradition makes any sense. Please don't become a follower of a dubious cult. So what are your experiences of traditional Kung Fu or modern Wushu? Is it still applicable today? Is it a good sport? Is it a good practice? And have you made any experiences with false masters? I'm very curious to know, so please let me know in the comments.